hello there. My name is May Nazareno, Northeast Director for Ignite. Very happy to see all of you. We are in a candidate section today. And in this candidate section, I want to give a shout out to JP Morgan Chase, who's been a longtime sponsor for Ignite, especially for this year's Young Women Run 2021. Now, why are we doing financial literacy in a candidate section? Well, what we believe very strongly at Ignite is if you are running for political office or any kind of public servant role, you got to have your finances in order, because learning financial literacy really does make a woman powerful. And today I want to introduce my dear friend, Husi Kekar, native Queens girl from Afghanistan, now lives in California, but Queens girl from the heart. So if any of you are out there from New York, you know what I'm talking about. I'm coming in from New York as well. Husi has a great passion to share about financial strategy, financial savings, and I just love her. We love her. And if you've been joining our online events with financial literacy through Ignite, you know Husi. For all of you that are new today, you're going to love her. And without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce and share with you the.
All right. Well, thank you, May. What an introduction. And let me tell you, May, Ignite, the feeling is mutual. I feel the same way about you all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's all of that as some part of the world, right? My name is Husi Kekar. I'm Market Director Banking with JP Morgan Chase. And truthfully, the honor is all mine. I love partnering with Ignite. I love serving you all, and I love getting to know you all, as well as this outstanding organization. So I will do it in a heartbeat. So thank you and welcome to your financial journey. May, I got it from here. Thank you so much.
Great. I'm here if you need me.
You got it. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. We're so excited, so excited. We're actually going to jump right to the second slide. And if you all will join me in the comment section, I am here because I want to get to know you. I am here because I want to be able to bring some tools to help you in your financial journey. We at JP Morgan Chase are proud sponsors, and we are proud, not only sponsors, but also proud of our engagement in the communities to be able to serve and help in any way that we can. So join me in the comment box. This is why I'm here, right? You heard what May had to say also. I want to know, why are you here? What are you hoping to achieve from this hour together? Love to see some comments come through. What are you hoping to achieve from this financial session during this hour? All right, so we are going to wait for those comments to come through, and as we're waiting for that, I want to encourage you all to think about the following quote. Now, Lao Tzu, who's a Chinese philosopher, he says, "The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single first step." The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single first step. And guess what, ladies and gents? I absolutely know that some of you may, talking about savings and building a savings plan and talking about budgeting and leveraging budgeting tools, this may be your first step. For others, it perhaps may be your second or third step. It doesn't matter where you are or where we're starting. At the end of the day, this session, we hope to provide you with the tools and resources that will help you no matter where you are at. And what I also ask you to think about, in preparation for the session, it's my understanding that this outstanding conference that you're attending will help you in your readiness to run for office, whether that's for the board, whether that's for the state, whether that's for the federal office. You are going to get the tools to be a leader in all of your communities. The other aspect of it is, as a leader, helping your constituents and helping them gain the knowledge around financial literacy, giving them tools to work with to strengthen their plans is going to make you that much more impactful. We have a comment that's coming through from Erin. Erin Hernandez, welcome and thank you for your comment. She says, I'm hoping to learn how to manage campaign finances when I do a run. I have no debt. I want to keep that trend. I love that. Erin, we are going to be talking about savings tools. We're going to be talking about the different type of goals. So we will be getting to your question very shortly in the session. And I thank you for being vulnerable. I thank you for being bold. And I thank you for participating. Next slide, please. So during our time together, I'm going to ask us all to think about and reflect on your savings plan, reflect on your budget plan, reflect on where you are at and what is your current situation. I understand we have, some of you are in high school, some of you are in college, some of you are in post-grads. Again, everybody's situation is different and that's perfectly a-okay. The other piece, what we're going to do is give you some information that's going to help you enhance your financial knowledge. We're going to help create a financial roadmap for you, and more importantly, help you understand how you can leverage the financial journal as you are strengthening your savings and your budget goals. Next slide, please. You know, through my experience, as May have shared with you, I have had the privilege of partnering with Ignite for quite some time now. And based on my experience, the sessions that are very impactful, the sessions that are engaging, and the sessions that we all learn from are those where the participants are actually engaging and they're sharing their perspective. So I want to thank you all for your participation, for your engagement, for your questions, and for your involvement. I know I'm going to learn tons from you all. Additionally, I also want to thank you for respecting the perspective of others. As mentioned, we all have various frames of references. You heard May say, I was born in Afghanistan, raised in New York City, and now locally in Sacramento. So there's a thing or two that I have learned about learning from other perspectives and respecting other people's perspectives. And I want to thank you in advance for making this an inclusive session for everyone. So let's get focused. Here we go. We're going to go to the comment section. We are going to go to the comment section again. What are you saving for? What are you saving for? Going to give you some time for it to come through. I will share with you what I'm saving for. My immediate goal is to, within less than 6 months, now that I'm vaccinated and we all starting to see light at the end of the tunnel, we want to go on vacation. My husband, Shaq, my daughter, Haley, and Shukran, we are long due for vacation because we've been locked in the house. My short-term goal is to send my parents and my mom to Mecca. I have shared this in previous sessions, and because of COVID, that has yet to happen. And then my long-term goal is to be able to send Haley and Shukran to college and be able to pay for their college education. So as you all are thinking about what you're saving for, I invite your comments, I invite your participation, and I invite your reflection of exactly just that. Next slide, please. So this session, we are going to encourage you all to think about your current situation, think about your current plan. For some, you may be starting a savings and a budget plan. For others, you may be jump-starting it. And for others, you may be recalibrating your plan. And that's a-okay. Next slide, please. Perfect. Here's our agenda. We're going to talk about, what you can do to start creating a savings plan, how you can make it real for yourself, what tools are available to you to help you bring your savings plan to life. Take it from paper and bring it to life and be more in control of it. We're going to have a conversation about our money habits and what our core values are and where it's actually kicking in from. And now I'm actually going to invite, there you go, no worries, thank you. And we're also going to walk away with some homework items that will allow you all to build on the information that you've actually learned today. And with that, let's go to the next slide, please. Perfect. Each of you should have access to what we call the financial journal. This journal is for you. It's for you to keep. You're able to use it for this session. And if in the future there are additional sessions such as credit, you're able to use it for that as well. I am going to play some music, and May and Joan, let's go ahead and put a 30-second countdown. I want to give everyone an opportunity to get comfortable with their financial journal. All right, welcome back. So before we continue, May, if you want to come back on, you're more than welcome to do so. I do see that there's some questions in here about a link. Does everybody have the link?
Yeah, I'm checking, but I love this. I love that you're planning a trip to, you want to send your family to Mecca, but you're also planning a trip, a vacation now that you're vaccinated. Congratulations for being vaccinated. I just got vaccinated today. So but who knows what's going to happen? I might just, turn into a potato, but never mind. So can you talk about this? How are you, starting where you are, how are you saving for this vacation on top of planning a trip to Mecca, which of course, that's going to be a huge endeavor, given all of the restrictions and planning that's required.
Absolutely. Even in this session, we're going to be talking about the importance of paying yourself first. And I take that very seriously, right? There's so many different facets of our lives, and there's so many juggling balls that we have to deal with. And when I think about savings and our money relationship, planning for a vacation, at least for my situation, is one of those balls that I juggle. And so when I get to that section, I'll even use this as an example. Paying yourself is equally important as paying your bills. And so having that mindset and prioritizing with that is definitely a key. So with that, May, we're going to keep the presentation going. Thank you so much for your input, and thank you for coming in. And so I hope everyone had an opportunity to get familiar with your financial journal. I appreciate the question that May asked, because that is what it's going to take, right? Let's be real with ourselves. Let's be real with our situation. And if this is something that we haven't done in the past, that's fine. That's fine. Let's start doing it today. And with that, let's go to the next slide, please. Excellent. So what is a goal? A financial goal helps us all stay on track. Setting a financial goal helps us keep ourselves accountable, and it helps us accomplish what we're trying to achieve and reach that ultimate destination. So with that, next slide, please. Fantastic. We're going to go into activity number one. Activity number one. So in your financial journal, go ahead and write your name as well as your age on the very first page in your journal. I am going to play some music in the background, and what I'm going to ask you folks to do is spend some time responding to the statements on page 1 through 3. Page 1 through 3. So I'll play some music. Again, I encourage you to be real with yourselves. Make it about you. Personalize it to you, and then we'll take it from there. All right. Joan, if we can put the 30-second countdown for everyone. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you all for reviewing your financial journal, and thank you for completing the activity. We can go back to the presentation and let's debrief this. I know it is a small group, and those are the best because we really get to know each other. So please join me in the comment box. Like Erin Hernandez, I welcome you all to put comments on here. Since I cannot see you, this will help me get to know you more and make sure that I'm able to customize this presentation to you all. So as you were completing this, what did you notice? Was there any response or statement on here that you found surprising? Let's see what kind of comments come through. May, as we're waiting for the comments, how about for yourself, as you were completing this, did you find anything surprising?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked because I was going through it. And like Erin, I too, I don't have debt per se, but I have expenses which I'm constantly like allocating money towards as a way of paying myself. But like Erin, and like many of our young women who don't have debt, but we constantly have this thing in the back of our minds, which is like, we might have debt in the future. Mm-hmm. Something's going to come up, and I just need to know that I've got enough saved for the emergency. Now, in the midst of COVID, I'm sure, you know, it's been all over the news of like, you know, you have to have at least, you know, a certain number amount saved. And I've been doing that. And we know that many Americans across the country, unfortunately, don't even have even $400 saved. But what have been the strategies that you have found that can allow someone to save something, even in the midst of they're already itemizing things on their own budget, but it feels like there's got to be some room left to just put something extra, you know what I mean? Just there, just in case. What do you suggest? And Erin,
I love that. I love that, May. I think oftentimes people, many have felt the same way and have similar questions, which actually is perfect because let's move on to the next slide, and that'll take us to our activity number 2. So this is our tactic number 1. Tactic number 1 is put it down on paper. Define your goals. Right? So May, one of the struggles that I have found through my experience personally as well as professionally is that oftentimes we're talking about it and I mentioned the juggling balls, and we have so many different priorities that we're dealing with, and sometimes they're competing priorities. Well, that's true for savings as well. And the ones that are successful start with something as basic as putting it on paper. So with that, let's actually apply there right now. I invite you all into your financial journal, your financial roadmap. And let's take a minute by identifying at least 4 goals. Write down, be specific, okay? What is your goal? I also encourage you to put by when do you want to achieve that? Because that would be tip number 2. Sometimes what I find is if we have goals, and we put it on paper, but we don't add a date to it, and it's really difficult to hold ourselves accountable to achieve that, right? So put it on paper, make it real. Hold yourself accountable to by when you want to accomplish it. Any goal without a date and without a dollar amount that you want to save for essentially just becomes a dream. And Erin says, I'm hoping to save for a vacation, a car, and my retirement, along with my parents' retirement. But I need to see if that's even feasible. You know what, Erin? You are spot on. What you just defined there is a short-term goal, a long-term goal, and an even medium-term goal. And you're right. And that's why it's so important to write it down on paper. Later on, we're going to be talking about budgeting and being aware of what income is coming in and what expenses are leaving, the inflow and outflow. That'll also help you or get organized and then essentially get disciplined as well. Okay. And so with that, let's come back to the presentation, please. Yes, May, go for it.
I have a quick question before you go into the presentation.
Sure.
So I love this strategy. We're going to have a financial roadmap. We're going to name our goals. We're going to date them. Do you have any advice on what given your extensive experience and training in finance, do you have any advice on which goals we should be prioritizing? Or is this more, you should really kind of go with like what excites you, or do you have professional advice about like, what, actually you should be prioritizing this because X, Y, and Z?
That's a wonderful question. And I thank you for asking. To each prioritization is going to be different. As mentioned at the very beginning of the session, we have young women attending the session who are in high school. We have young women who are in college. We have young women who are post-grads. We have, some of you may be married. Some of you may not be. So for each person, it's going to be different. And what I encourage you to do is understand where you are at, understand your current situation, and think about all aspects of your life and what is it that you're wanting to achieve. And so for some, a priority might be to save for a campaign. For somebody else, a priority might be to have a rainy day fund and put, 3 to 6 months of funds aside. So in case the worst thing happens, you are prepared. So to answer your question, it's going to vary from one person to another. And so with that, let's go back to the presentation, please. Excellent. Now let's talk about how do we make our goals SMART? So we just talked about self-reflection, identifying goals, putting a date, defining when we want to achieve it. Making your goals SMART will also help you stay focused and on track. So when you're creating your goals, be specific. The S is for specific. The M is for measurable. Okay, the A is for achievable. The R is for relatable, the purpose behind it, and the T is time bound. And so here's an example. I want to save for a rainy day fund in case there's an emergency. I want to save $200. That's going to be the measure. $200. How I'm going to save that $200 is I'm going to cut back on my Starbucks, save at least $10 a day, okay, for 20 weeks straight, and that'll help me achieve that goal. Why is this important? Why is that relevant? Well, when I have an emergency and I don't have enough funds put aside, that gives me anxiety. So for my own peace of mind, this is why this piece that having a rainy day fund is important for me. And then by when? I'm going to say by December 31st, 2021. So as you're creating your goals, feel free to leverage this tactic. So May, you asked for tips. Here's another tip. When you put your goals on paper and you specify the date, next look at, are your goals SMART? Okay, so let's go back to the next slide, please. Fantastic, which is going to lead us to our next activity. I invite you all back to your financial journal. And what I want you to do is take one of your goals and make it SMART. Okay? Take one of your goals and make it SMART.
While they're doing that, I want to just say, Husi, I love the fact that we're putting a specific time on all the goals. Because the thing is, when you put the time on things, it's like you give yourself the grace of not having the pressure of doing all of it at once.
That's right.
Which is huge, because I often feel, and I'm sure many of our women feel like, oh my God, we have to do X, Y, and Z by the end of 2021. And that's so not realistic. And that causes even more anxiety. But it's great that it's about setting priorities, which is what you're really talking about.
100%, and I think that's spot on. And thank you for bringing up that point. We can actually go back into the presentation. I mentioned earlier I have a daughter, and her name is Haley. You know what? Haley is actually in second grade right now, and she has observed me facilitate these seminars. And believe it or not, what I notice is now, even as a second grader, she's starting to prioritize where she wants to spend, her dollar or the $2, or what she wants to do with the money that she gets for doing her chores. And watching Haley, a second grader, start planning how she's spending the funds that she earns from her chores just really solidifies that it does not matter what age we are. It does not matter what situation we're in. We can start small, we can start big, we can all start somewhere. Start somewhere, and it'll help make our end destination much more possible. So I appreciate that. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So when you think about, our attitudes and our beliefs, I will share with you that the impact of our money beliefs is quite significant, right? So what we think about money, how we treat our money, and our overall financial plan overall impacts our attitudes towards money. Our attitudes also impact our behaviors towards money. So I want you all to join me in the comment box. So far, Erin, I want to give you a huge shout out. Thank you for participating in this. And I look forward to hearing more comments from you. And I want to do an activity in the comment box with all of us. So when you think about, let's go to the next slide, please. When you think about our ideal lives, and when we think about what we are doing, and we think about who are we doing it with, our saddest moments, our happiest moments, what words come to your mind? And if I may ask you to pop back on here, what words come to your mind when we think about core values that define your life?
Independence.
Independent. Why is that important for you, May?
You know what? Because if you have the freedom to do what you want, you don't have to answer to anyone. You have all choices available to you. And there's something really freeing about not having to ask someone else for permission on how you want to determine your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well stated. Very well stated. I will share with you, for May, she just gave a word of independence. Another word that can help determine your core values is family. Growing up, I mentioned my mom is illiterate. She didn't go to school. So this is why I'm so passionate about financial literacy seminars, because that is something she wanted to do, but she never really had an opportunity to do. And it's been a pain point for her. And to your point, not having that knowledge and not having the tools available to her prevented her from exercising the independence in the way that she wanted to. So for me, family is one of the words that come to my mind when you're thinking about core values. For others, it may be peace of mind. For others, it may be harmony, right? For somebody else, it may be integrity toward it. Everybody has a different attitude towards not only finances, but just overall when it comes to a financial plan. And that stems from our beliefs, it stems from our behaviors, and it stems from our, what we see or what we have seen or what we have heard. I'll give you an example here. If two children are raised in the same household in the exact same way, two children raised in one household the exact same way, and both children have heard the same comment, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. The reaction to that might be different. One child might say, you know what? I'm never living like that again, and saves every dime. Another child might say, you know what? I'm never living like that again, and spends every dime, right? So again, two children, same household, the beliefs, what their experience and how they experienced it within themselves is going to determine their attitudes and then their behaviors. So the more aware we are of what the triggers of our core values are, and we can go to the next slide, the more in control, if you will be in terms of your overall relationship with finances and your goals. And Erin says, Erin, you are outstanding. I so appreciate you speaking, volunteering and sharing your comments. Erin says, stability. The farther I'm from poverty, the more peace I have. My grandmother advised me to prepare myself to be independent and not to have to rely on someone else. Erin, you know what? Fantastic. That is a great point that you brought up. Your grandmother gave you fantastic advice, and I appreciate you sharing it with all of us. Thank you for your participation. So, team, leaders, present and future, think about your core values. Write down the 5 words that are most important to you and how that'll help shape your beliefs and your behaviors towards money, towards financial goals, and overall budgeting. And with that, let's move to the next slide, please.
What I want to say, just for my dog is very active. So what I want to say is actually what you're also talking about is the foundations for policy making, right? Because when people make policy, they're often coming from their own core beliefs and values. And what I'm hearing from you is that when we understand our own triggers, when we understand our own values, we, are able to bring those to policy decisions, especially when it comes to finance. But we're also equally listening to other people's values and triggers towards finance. So this is very interesting in terms of like the interconnectedness.
100%.
How we're understanding our finances and managing our finances and how that translates, especially to what Erin wants to do, work on finance policy and campaign management.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because exactly to your point, if you're going to be leading, whether it's a school board, whether it's you're working at a state office, whether you're working at a federal office, you're actually acting on behalf and as an advocate for the communities that you're serving. And your constituents may also come from various backgrounds, have different experiences or different attitudes towards spending and saving. And as leaders, by you experiencing it and being able to share and provide tips on how to strengthen their plans, you're going to be making a difference in your communities. On the slide up, we're talking about creating your money story. And what May just talked about for you all, especially what this conference is focused around, you will also have so much more value to bring to the table in addition to what you're doing now, because you're going to be able to help others define their money story, help them understand and acknowledge the reality of their relationship with their finances, and strengthen that. So thank you so much, May, for sharing. Let's go on to the next slide. So when you think about, what do you need? What might people need to get them to their destination? What might one need to help them achieve their goals? For some, it may be making more money. For others, it may be increasing savings. For others, it may be spending less. But I will also share with you, for most, it's a combination of both, right? It's a combination of both. Save more, spend less. Save more, spend less. And the ones that are able to comfortably navigate between the juggling, competing priorities and competing goals are the ones that are able to successfully achieve their long-term goals. So let's bring May back in. May, I want to hear your perspective on this. What else do you think one might need to reach their final destination, meaning reach their financial goal, besides what's listed on the slide, that you think we should make note of?
Honestly, I think it's about having confidence, because all of these are like the right steps But you'll have people in your life who will say, you don't really need to do that. Or can you please lend me? Because if people know that you're a saver, they'll be like, oh, I'm gonna hit Husi up for money. You know what I mean? Like it's when, especially when you come from, a family or big family, like, I do too. It's like, there's always, and of course you want to give, but it's also, you've got to have that. I think what's important is like, you've got to have that inner discipline and be okay with saying no, or not right now, or it's not a good time, and not feel the need to explain why, because sometimes your financial goals are private, and you have a right to have that keep private, and just kind of firmly establish the path that you need to be on. I think that's a big part.
I love that. I love that. I will share with you, May, coming, growing up, and, where I witnessed a lot of poverty, or being the oldest generation 0.5, I was that person that you just described, where I'm still that person that you are describing, where people just look at, and no matter what situation they're in, they just expect you to pull them out of it. And it can be very, very difficult. And that's where, to your point, having confidence and being educated, financially educated yourself, and having access to resources, but more importantly, applying the resources will help you gain that confidence. And what's going to happen in turn is you're going to help others be confident, right? Others be confident. A quick story here. I have an aunt that actually migrated here. She married my uncle. And when she came here, she didn't speak a word of English. And when it came to her finances, she could not read, she could not write. And I remember, no matter what I learned, whether it was at work or whether it was in an academic environment, I would come home and I would teach it to her. Well, guess what? She is now the one who leads the finances in her house. And she's the one that's teaching budget to her 4 daughters and her 2 sons. And what that showed me, that experience, her name is Layla, that experience has taught me that anything is possible. Anything is possible. But if we go to the next slide, let's move on to the next slide. It talks about the power of savings, right? Getting real about saving. What May just talked about, the example that I just shared, these are all examples of getting real about savings. Putting it on paper, defining an end date, right? Identifying tactics to help you remain disciplined and help you stay confident as you're navigating through your journey is going to be instrumental. What I would ask you all to think about now is, how satisfied are you? This is for you. You don't have to share. You don't have to repeat it to anybody else. But I want you to think about, how confident are you in your approach to savings now? How confident are you in your approach to savings now? Let's move on to the next slide. Okay. The power of savings is instrumental. There's going to be some of you that say, Husi, I'm very confident. I'm on track to do X, Y, and Z. Fantastic. I'm giving you a big high five and ask you to please share your tactics with others around you so we can learn. If you're like, Husi, I'm not so confident. In fact, when I was doing that very first activity, I had a lot of strongly disagrees. Well, then I am encouraging you to start somewhere. Start small, start big, start somewhere. Putting away for a financial emergency and leveraging tools like autosaves that are out there are going to help you be that much more confident. May asked earlier, what are some tips? What are some tactics? And I mentioned pay yourself first. If you start paying yourself first by putting away in your savings account for your savings goal, and you treat that in the same way that you would as if you're paying a bill, whether it's $1, whether it's $25, whether it's $2,000, whatever that dollar figure is for you, it's going to bring a lot of power to your overall savings plan. With that, let's go to the next slide to actually demonstrate the impact of how a small change can make a big difference. So whether it's small, big, just start somewhere. What you're looking at here is an illustration of what is possible. Spending $1 less a day will help you save $365 in 1 year. Spending $5 less a day tells you how much you can save in 5 years. Spending $10 less a day can help you save in the long run, such as the figure for the 10 years. You know, when I think about understanding our behaviors and our attitudes, it's also understanding that when we pull from one thing, we're giving it to something else. We're giving it to something else. And so when we define our habits and we define our plans in terms of what we need to do to achieve our overall long-term goals, when it comes to savings, we're going to be more set up for success. So May, I welcome you back in the room, and I'd love to see your reaction to the slide up.
You know, it's really crazy. With this pandemic, like we've all been wearing sweats. We've all been doing some of us have been doing a lot of baking. Because of restaurants, we've had to pull back, and it's interesting to see where the money has gone in the past and where it's retained. And now I've developed this mantra of, do I need it right now? Is it essential? Can I use something else in my house as a substitute? Can I work with what I've got already in my house as a substitute? And if I can't, then I'll buy it, and then I'll look for like a better price. But like the first question is, do I really, really need it? Because I think in this time, there's some of us who are like, oh my gosh, we have, it's like shopping can be this form of releasing anxiety. Whereas instead of shopping, we can kind of rechannel that and put it somewhere and ask those questions. And I find that for me, doing that has helped me stay disciplined on my financial path.
I love that. What May just talked about is knowing the opportunity cost, right? The opportunity cost, the cost you're paying of being disciplined, right? Of not doing one thing, but then doing something else, or the benefit that you might be missing out on. And so I love that, because May is becoming intentional. And this COVID, what I heard her say is this COVID environment has helped her look at her spending habits. And even though there might be members in the audience that want to do it and they can do it, right? That can spend in any way they want, and that's a-okay. But if you are 100% in control of your financial journey, and you are able to decide where your money goes and why it goes to seek greater satisfaction in your planning, that is what May is doing. And that is what's going to help you stay on track for what you define as a priority for your situation. Thank you so much, May, for sharing. Let's go to the next slide, please. Let's see here. Erin is using the comments. So this can go for Erin. I invite others to participate as well. And it can also go to May. So Erin, May, or others. When I say budget, what comes to mind? When I say the word budget, what comes to your mind?
No fun.
No fun?
No fun.
And why is that? Tell us more about your perspective.
Because I'm always budgeting, and it's always like, oh man, I live in New York City, and like New York City, how many times are we taxed? Hello? How many times are we taxed? And so the way that I work with my money is I always just work from after I'm taxed. And then it's, the net, and I'm just like, what do I have to do? So when I think of budget, I feel like sometimes it's no fun. The other feeling of budget, for a personal budget, right? For a personal budget, it's like, again, going back to that word discipline, can I keep it? Can I, and then I have to be, again, very intentional. I write stuff down of what I save. Sometimes I pull just cash and I put it in a envelope, and I'm like, all right, that is the cash that I am using for X, Y, and Z. And then once it's gone, it's gone. And I cannot, I have conversations with myself.
I love it. I love it, Jay.
But I'm trying, you know what? But it's a great question because it's like you have to change your attitude towards things. Does budget really necessarily mean no fun? No, I just haven't gone down that path yet. But I'm just,
Hey,
that's my 2 cents on the matter.
Listen, May, you are keeping it real, and that's what the session is about. You are keeping it real. And let's see here. Sindel Drake says, thank you for participating, by the way. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. And if I'm not, please forgive me. I'm a Husi, so I can totally understand. You said personal budget or campaign budget. You know what? Both. When you think about personal budget, what comes to your mind? When you think about campaign budget, what comes to your mind? I'll wait for Sindel's comment before we continue. And while we're waiting, May brought up an excellent point. She's being real. For some, a budget might not be fun, right? But how can we make it fun? And the tool, the activity that we're going to do next will hopefully make it fun for you. And the other key thing that she mentioned, when are we starting to budget? When do we come in for budgeting? The timing and the preparation of your planning will also contribute to making it fun, or perhaps not. So Sindel says, personal budget, I'm horrible, I spend. You know what? Thank you for your vulnerability. I appreciate, I'm giving you a big high five. You know what? Thank you for being honest, right? Thank you for being honest. I like to spend too. And I used to collect bags. But it is sometimes just saying it and becoming aware. It doesn't mean that you don't have to spend. It's just, are you spending in ways that you want to spend? So thank you for your point there. Erin says, shame for spending so much on eating out or leisure expenses. Misuse. I love that. Thank you, Erin. You know what? I can relate to you. That's the one benefit of this horrible pandemic that came out of that is I started to cook more at home. So Erin, you're not the only one, right? There's others. My husband Shaq and I, we were like, man, we're eating out a lot. And now with increasing meal preparation and increasing making our own food is definitely helping from that end. So let's go to the next slide. Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you, Sindel, for participating. I invite you to your financial journey journal again. So activity 5 actually introduces you to what we call Budget Builder, okay? So chase.com/budget builder. You are absolutely welcome to visit it. You can also print out the worksheet. And what this Budget Builder will help you do is break down your budget, right? Break down your budget, all your bills, all your expenses, and it will help you identify how much you really can save. Now, I think Erin said earlier, with juggling priorities, is it even feasible to save for everything? And I'm going to say yes, it's feasible. It is feasible when you invest in the time in creating a budget, and you also, now the timing of it might be different, right? You also have to take into consideration your current situation that you're in, right? What is your work situation? What is your income situation? What is your expense situation? So what I love about this Budget Builder, it helps you realize exactly just that. We're not going to ask you to build a budget during our time together, but what I am going to ask you to do is if you're like May and you perceive that budget may not come across as fun, I encourage you to spend some time on here or look for even other tools that are available to help you identify what's coming in and what's leaving. So with that, let's come back to the presentation, please.
So I just want to say, Husi, we could be on here forever. I mean, we are closing down. We are closing down soon, and Joan is going to have to hop off. Can you give us a link to this financial journey workbook so that our women can work on that on their own?
Yes, absolutely. What I will do is, it's included in the documents, but I'll send it to you one off. And then you
Perfect.
you absolutely can share with the women that joined as well as others in the conference.
Thank you. And the other thing I want to say, ladies and gentlemen, a part of our financial journey is also fighting for the money that we're worth. So after this, in the next couple of months, we are doing some sessions on career building, asking for a raise, negotiating your salary, and that is going to add to your financial journey and help you achieve your financial goals. Husi, I can't thank you enough for such a wonderful presentation. Thank you for being part of this, and thank you for just your deep care and passion for Ignite.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the participants who allowed me to engage with you. I would encourage you to just visit the last slide, which has some homework items, and it talks about gathering your documents, looking at your expenses, looking at your incoming deposits or whatnot. I encourage you to connect with your bankers or come see us at Chase or visit your bank and ask them about the tools, the additional tools that are available to help you increase your savings and help you budget where you are comfortable. It's always an honor. I hope you have an amazing conference, and thank you so much for having me.
Bye. Husi, thank you so much. Be well. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.